Tonight we're going to talk about snowshoeing in Central Oregon. And this is brought to you by the Central Oregon Nordic Club here in Bend. And we appreciate Elsa Hager and the library for hosting this event and providing the space and the technology to record it. So there will be a recorded video that you can watch over and over again. Closer? Is that better? Okay. Trying to do two hands, one for the slides and this. I'm Bob Timmer, and I coordinate the stewardship of the dedicated snowshoe trails here in the National Forest, and I'm a volunteer. And Kelly Cleman here, my co-partner in this presentation, is a board member on the Central Oregon Nordic Club and also coordinates, organizes outings for snowshoeing and skiing. The Central Oregon Nordic Club is a volunteer-based organization here in Bend that enhances cross-country skiing and snowshoeing in Central Oregon by organizing outings for ski touring, snowshoeing, and hiking, maintaining over 100 miles of cross-country and snowshoe trails, maintaining 4 warming shelters and stocking them with firewood, organizing social events, advocating for the protection of the backcountry, and teaching Nordic skiing skills. So it's one of 3 or 4 organizations here that really supports your high country trails in the National Forest, all again volunteer-based. There's 2 destinations for the information that I'll be going through tonight. One of them is the Central Oregon Nordic Club website. The other is snowshoebendoregon.com. And the 2 sites sort of work in tandem, and the Central Oregon Nordic Club website has been enhanced over the last couple of years and is containing more information on snowshoeing, where originally the Nordic Club was very much geared towards skiing. So snowshoeing is becoming a bigger presence on their website. And then, having been involved in the snowshoe trails for some 13 plus years here, established the snowshoebendoregon.com website just as a place where you can get snowshoe-based information. And so this presentation is available. It's posted right now on snowshoebendoregon.com, so you can download the entire PDF of this presentation and have the information available. And then the recorded video will be posted on both of these websites. So I'm going to pass around some business cards, okay, that have the websites on them and a trail map of the snowshoe trails on the back here up Century Drive. So if you use your magnifying lens, you will not get lost, okay? So pass those around. So in 2023, Kelly Cleman wrote, you know, snowshoeing, it's a slow sport. You just can't be in a hurry. It's fun for the whole family. It's easy on the pocketbook, and we'll talk about that. If you can walk, you can snowshoe. It's a low impact outdoor workout, and it's quiet, and you're just surrounded by the beauty of nature. And this is the view from the Peak View Snowshoe Trail just south of Sisters, my personal favorite, with the view of the 3 Sisters in Mount Jefferson. And on a blue sky day, it's just a wonderful snowshoe trail. And we'll talk more about that. So this evening, the structure of tonight's presentation, and it's going to be a little bit like a fire hose, okay, with a lot of information. That's why the slides are provided if you need to go back to them. But it's first going to talk about a guided snowshoe trip sign up that Kelly's going to lead. Secondly, getting prepared to go snowshoeing. Picking a destination, what might you consider in picking a destination, what to expect when you get to the snow park and on the trail, and then a shoe-along where we'll cover the 27 different locations you can go snowshoeing here in Central Oregon. So you can almost go snowshoeing every weekend and probably not do the same trail more than once or twice, okay? There's a lot of opportunity. So the guided snowshoe trip, Kelly will be organizing. There's a sign-up sheet on the Central Oregon Nordic Club website, and sign-up registration opens tomorrow. The trip is tentatively scheduled for December 14th, but we need snow. So let's all go out and do a snow dance after this, so we can do it. But there's more details on the website, and as I say, Kelly Cleman will be leading it. The plan is to go to the Swampy Snow Park and do a snowshoe trip up to the Swampy Shelter. So if you're first-time snowshoer or second-time snowshoer and would like to do it as a group activity, this would be an opportunity to do so. So getting prepared, what might you do before you start going out and snowshoeing? Well, first of all, you need snowshoes, okay? And there's a variety of options on snowshoes. Snowshoes, your determination on snowshoes are first based on your weight, how much coverage you need to have under that snowshoe to support you in the snow, what the snow conditions are, whether you're going to be on a packed trail or soft snow, and what terrain you're expected to snowshoe. And so you can see the little table in the upper part where, depending on your weight, you're going to have different lengths of snowshoes. And the table in the center left is REI's estimation of what the 7 best snowshoes are in their retail perspective. And you can go out to the website and look at it. But I want to just talk a little bit about the snowshoes. And so you can see their favorite snowshoe, the MSR Lightning Ascent, is this snowshoe here, okay? It's a great snowshoe, rather expensive these days. It has great traction, it has a heel lift, and like the MSR snowshoes, you can get one of this length, and this is my snowshoe, and MSR makes tails that you can add to the back of the snowshoe for those days when you're in soft snow. So it does provide extra length in the snowshoe. Given the price, you might look at this snowshoe and decide to go out to Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and look at older used snowshoes. And one thing to consider is these snowshoes are now only warranted for 1 year, okay? And make sure you look at the rivets under them. I've worn through 2 snowshoes in 8 years, okay? And the rivets start breaking, and so you don't want to get out on the trail and have that problem. So make sure you inspect it if you decide to go out and get a used MSR Lightning Ascent, okay? Another snowshoe, this is Kelly's snowshoe, the MSR Evo, okay? And Kelly here uses this snowshoe, another good choice. Notice her snowshoe shorter, okay? And on the packed snowshoe trails, this is generally what you need. But if you get a heavy snow and you're up at, let's say up by Dutchman, this may not be able to support you if you're in the 150 to 175 pound range, okay? You're going to need something longer. You'll find a number of this version of snowshoes, and with the tubular frame, they are good, they're fine, they're in the range of $60 to $75, okay? They tend not to have the same level of traction as one of these snowshoes with a lot of traction. So if you want to do a little bit steeper trails, you're going to want that traction, okay? So be aware of that. This is a snowshoe that's rather interesting. I just bought it at Costco 2 weeks ago, so I have not used it yet, okay? But I was pretty impressed by both the binding and the traction. So I'm looking forward to getting out on the trail and giving this a try. So this snowshoe plus poles plus a bag at $69, certainly, I found interesting, okay? So we'll see. And then obviously if you have little tykes, okay, there is the Mr. Tubbs Snowflake Snowshoe, okay? So that's sort of the perspective on snowshoes. Yes?
I want to comment on bindings, because I don't care for those ones that go over the little metal thing. I have ratchet bindings that I absolutely love.
The ratchet? Okay. And there are some that are the ratchet. Yeah. It's up to the individual, okay? I guess I like the straps, okay? I like less mechanical. And I carry one extra strap in case one breaks, because there's nothing worse than being out on the trail and having your snowshoe fail, okay? And yes,
Do they come in widths for smaller people?
widths?
Yeah.
No,
I have some MSRs, but they feel like my legs are too far apart.
I think the women's snowshoes are slightly narrower, but I've not seen anything on different widths. For most of what you're going to do here, you could probably err on the shorter length rather than the longer, okay? Just know that if it's a really snowy day and soft snow, and if you decide you're going to go off trail, you may sink in more, okay? So that's the sort of a message on snowshoes. Why use snowshoes? I mean, obviously snowshoes provide the extra surface area to support your weight. Boots and shoes may be adequate for support and traction on a cold, well-packed trail. You'll see a number of people going out to the shelters in boots and shoes. However, as the snow warms, it's going to lose strength. And as shown in the photo, individuals in boots and shoes may begin to post hole, suddenly dropping down to their knee or lower into the snow. And this is hazardous for the individual, and it really is hazardous for everyone else that follows on the trail. And even on cold days, post-holing is possible if you have to step off the trail for a little bit of a nature call, okay? And suddenly you're in soft snow, you may not get very far off the trail. So really, please use snowshoe trails. It's for your safety. It's for the safety of those that snowshoe behind you. In addition, one obviously wants boots. You have insulated boots. The biggest issue is having waterproof, okay? So that your feet don't get cold. Kelly's boot, we've both chosen about the same boot. I like to wear gaiters. These go between the boot and your pants, and they tend to keep the snow out. If you happen to step into the soft snow, you don't wind up with snow down the back of your boot, which gets uncomfortable. Gloves, important. One thing to be aware of is as you get to the snow park, it's going to be cold. You're going to be cold. It's going to be breezy. You're going to sit there and put on a lot of clothing. You get on the snowshoe trail. You're in the trees. The breeze is cut down. You start working hard. You're going to get warm. So it's really important to dress in layers, okay? Layers are very important. And then when you stop to take a break, have a snack, enjoy nature, you're just going to get cold. So you're going to want to put that layer back on and then take it back off. So really consider layers. Poles. If you hike with hiking poles, you'll want to snowshoe with snow poles. I recommend taking poles because if you're having to break trail, if the trail is not well broken, it can be really stabilizing to have poles. You definitely, if you have hiking poles, and these are my summer hiking poles, and I just put a snow basket on the bottom, and you can buy the snow baskets at the store. If you don't have a snow basket, and you're out there in 6 feet of snow, or you're up at Dutchman Flat in 10 feet of snow, and you poke that pole in the snow, it's not going to touch anything, okay? And so I think poles are valuable in stability. And if you snowshoe off trail, poles are really important because if you snowshoe off trail and you suddenly, let's say, fall, you can push your hand down and not reach anything. But having poles gives you something to help give you leverage to get back up, okay? And so we had a Central Oregon Nordic Club member who wrote a little expose last year in our newsletter about snowshoeing, and she went down to her waist in the snow cavity, and she said if she hadn't had poles and a partner, she would have still been there. So poles I recommend, especially if you're off trail. You'll need a snow park pass. The snow park pass is what ODOT uses the funds from snow park passes to plow the lots. And the State Patrol is the monitor of the snow parks. And so you'll get a parking ticket if you don't have one. It's not the Forest Service, it's the State Patrol. And 10 essentials. And the 10 essentials are things you might consider having in your backpack because you just never know when you're going to run into a situation that is going to require you to stay out longer or to potentially fix the snowshoe or encounter someone else that needs help. And so there's a good video out there of these 10 essentials on the Central Oregon Nordic Club website to consider. You know, hiking in the summer, you know, it's not that serious if you're out there an extra couple hours. If you're in the winter and it's starting to get late in the afternoon, it can get pretty chilly out there on the trail. So, you know, being prepared and taking just a little bit more in the backpack is really beneficial. So that's some of the getting prepared, what you need to have ready. How would you pick a destination? And on the map in the center are the 12 places to consider on destinations. And so there's a lot of different choices. And so you can think about what's up a Cascade Lakes Highway just west of Bend on the way to Mount Bachelor, a number of places to snowshoe. There's places out at Newberry down to the south. There's places over by Sisters and up to Sandy Am Pass, and then up east of Prineville at Walton Lake. So there's a number of destinations. We'll talk about those and what each of the advantages are. You might choose dedicated snowshoe trails or shared snowshoe and Nordic trails, or consider off-trail. If you want to snowshoe with your dog, then you need to think about what snow parks are available for snowshoeing with your dog. How difficult do you want to go to a shelter, and what's the weather going to be? And we're really fortunate here in Central Oregon to have dedicated snowshoe trails at 7 of our snow parks. And this is really something that is unique in the country, okay? And these are trails that are dedicated for snowshoers, constructed for snowshoers in terms of generally encompassing loops, and the distances are compatible with snowshoeing. Snowshoeing takes about 1.5 to 2 times the energy of hiking. So if you like to hike a 5-mile hike, a 3-mile snowshoe is about what you'd want to do, okay? Or 2-mile, depending on the snow conditions. If you like 8 to 10-mile hikes, then you might want a 5-mile snowshoe, okay? So think of it in terms of twice as hard as hiking. And then there's also the shared Nordic and the off-trail. So the snow parks with the dedicated trails are highlighted in orange here. And dedicated snowshoe trails are really a new idea here in Central Oregon. And these were the first dedicated snowshoe trails built in the National Forest in the country. So it's really a good idea. In the early 2000s, Jim Davis, who was a retired physician, moved to Bend from Portland. He recognized the growing conflict between the shared Nordic trails and snowshoers. And he also snowshoed and found that people would start walking following his snowshoe trails. So he worked with the Forest Service and, along with a group of enthusiastic volunteers, established the first trails dedicated to snowshoeing at the Meisner and Swampy Snow Parks in 2002. So just 23 years ago were the first dedicated snowshoe trails. Jim became known as Dr. Snowshoe. And he and his volunteers added another trail every year or two at the Dutchman, Swampy, and Edison Snow Parks through 2009. And then more recently, we've added additional trails, bringing us up to 27 miles of dedicated snowshoe trails now. And so when we think of picking a destination, one of the questions is, are you going to snowshoe with a dog? And the winter trail rules established by the Forest Service are that if you're north of Cascade Lakes Highway, so on your right as you're headed to Mount Bachelor, then dogs are not permitted in those snow parks during the winter. So from November 1st to, I think it's March 31st or April 15th. The dogs are permitted in the snow parks south of the highway. So at Winoga, Kopka, and Edison are the dog-friendly snow parks. Meisner, Swampy, Vista Butte, and Dutchman, you're not permitted to have dogs, okay? So you'll want to pick your snow park by whether or not you want to snowshoe with your furry friend. Also, how difficult. And we rate the snowshoe trails in terms of easiest, more difficult, and most difficult. And it's relative by each snow park, okay? what would be the easiest route out to a particular shelter. And we use the same signage as in the downhill skiing, with the green being the easiest, the more difficult blue, and the most difficult black. And do you want to snowshoe out to a shelter? So those are some of the considerations as you're trying to pick what trail to go out and snowshoe on a particular day. And the map is available. I'll tell you where you can get the map that shows the snowshoe destinations and the snowshoe trail listing, that the poster here, that listing's available. And you can get that on the Central Oregon Nordic Club website by going to the resources page and then scrolling down to the lower part of the page, and you can download a PDF of the overview map on the Century Drive snowshoe trails, and also the trail listing that gives you the information on each of the trails, so you might select it and know which you choose from. There's also the Forest Service. Also on the Central Oregon Nordic Club website, there's a number of other items of interest that you can go to. You can click on there for a weather forecast at that snow park, additional trail descriptions, and download a Forest Service trail map from the website. So that's something to consider at the Nordic Club website. And the National Forest Service produces these snowpark trail maps for the winter trails and has them available on the Forest Service website and also at the Central Oregon Nordic Club website. And they're also available on the Avenza app. Does anybody here use Avenza for hiking? A few people, okay. It's a cell phone-based mapping system that is free, and you can download the individual winter trail maps from the Avenza store for free. And then as you're out at each snow park, you can bring up that particular map, and it will keep track of where you are as you are snowshoeing along. And so when someone in your party says, "Are we there yet?" you can look at your phone and say, "Oh, it's just up past the next tree," okay? And so forth. So there are a couple of good, helpful videos on the Central Oregon Nordic Club website to explain how to use the app. It's very simple and very helpful. Once you get to the snow park, you're going to, this is a view of one of the snow parks up Cascade Lakes Highway, Swampy Snow Park. And this was on a day when no one else was there, okay? It was very peaceful. And you sit here and say, gosh, where's the snowshoe trail? What are these other trails? Where do I go, okay? And at the Swampy Snow Park, there are actually 3 different types of winter trails that leave the snow park. There are 2 snowshoe trails, and I've sort of highlighted where they are with the blue arrows. There's some groomed Nordic trails that are groomed for skate skiing and cross-country skiing, and that's with a purple arrow. And then there are some ungroomed Nordic ski trails, shown two of those that depart from the snow park at the green arrows. So what you want to look for is the image on the upper right-hand part of the screen, where it will show a blue diamond with a Shoer logo in it, okay, and the trailhead sign with the trail name and the destinations, okay. So each of the trailheads will have one of these blue diamonds, so you can find the snowshoe trails. And because snowshoeing on the ski trails is everyone has the right to do it. You'll enjoy the experience on the snowshoe trails much more, okay? And especially if, please don't snowshoe on the groomed ski trails. I can tell you the skate skiers and the cross-country skiers will not be appreciative, okay? And so if you decide you need to go in that direction, skate along the side of it. Snowshoe along the side of it, not on the groomed snowshoe trails or ski trails. You want to know the signs and reassurance markers out on the winter trails. So the map on the left is sort of a blow-up of one of the Forest Service trail maps, and you'll see that the snowshoe trails are marked with the gray outline and blue dots. That's the symbol the Forest Service uses for snowshoe trails. The solid blue lines are the Nordic ski trails. And so when you look at the Forest Service map, look for those blue lines with the gray lines with the blue dots. The junctions of the snowshoe trail are marked with letters. So junction F, you can see on the map, is marked with an F, and if you get to that junction on the tree, you'll find an F above the junction signs. And the junction signs, historic junction signs have been brown. We're replacing them with blue signs as the old signs wear out. But so the junction signs of snowshoe trails are marked with letters. The junction signs of ski trails are marked with numbers. So if you get to a junction and it has a number, you're at the junction of a ski trail, okay? And so, so look at your Avenza app, figure out where you are. The reassurance markers are the markers that are placed along the trail. And so there's blue stands for winter trails. This diamond snowshoe is a ski trail marker. All of the dedicated snowshoe trails have the shoer on markers, okay? And there's two styles. One of them is a bracketed style that extends out from the tree. The other is an individual diamond that is nailed to the tree. We've been switching more and more to the bracketed signs and now actually switching to aluminum signs because they tend not to get plastered with snow when you have a heavy snow and the marker is on the tree and the snow covers the marker and you get on the trail and you can't tell where the trail goes. The trail signs are placed along the trail at intervals of 50 to 75 feet, sometimes 100 feet if there aren't many trees, okay? Trees fall. The sign goes with them when they do, okay? So sometimes you'll get out there and you won't see the next sign, okay? So look behind you, try and get a sense of which way was the trail going to go, okay? And, but we try and keep the trail signed about every 50 to 75 feet in distance. And the trail sign, the decals on the signs are 3M reflective tape. So if you decide you want to go out and snowshoe on a dark night, okay, snowshoe out to one of the shelters, and you have your headlamp, those signs are going to pop into view much better at night than they will during the day, okay? So that's an opportunity. If we had great snow with the full moon, clear sky right now, we could all go out and snowshoe tonight to Meisner Shelter and you know, it'd be a good night. Snowshoe signs do burn in the fire, okay? And unfortunately, I'll talk more about it, we had the little lava fire come into Edison Snow Park and get into the snowshoe trail. So one of the downsides of our snowshoe markers. But know the trail signs. The snowshoe trails are all winter trails. We do not clear them to ground with the intent that they are intended to be used when you are elevated 12 inches or higher above the ground surface. And we do that for two reasons. One, you tend to like the snowshoe going straight up a hill rather than side hilling. And by leaving the logs across the trail, it reduces the erosion. And also, we're trying to, you know, the Forest Service has asked us to not further fragment the forest with additional trails. So the snowshoe trails are not cleared to ground, so there are always low snow obstacles. So be careful if you're out there with just the first snow of the season and 6 inches of snow. You'll be stepping over some logs and twigs and so forth. So be aware of that. So that's what to expect at the snow park and on the trail. Let's start our little shoe-a-log as we look at each of the destinations. So we'll start our exploration heading towards Mount Bachelor, up Century Drive, and we'll start at Meisner with what trails are available there. Then to the left at Winoga, the dog-friendly snow park. Then to the right on Swampy, up to Vista Butte, Dutchman, and then down to Edison for the 6 snow parks along the Century Drive corridor. So at Meisner Snow Park is very busy because it's the premier volunteer coordinated free cross-country ski area. And so you will find a load of groomed cross-country ski trails, and it's very busy on the weekends. And the map here is very busy. It's hard to even see the snowshoe trail between all of the various ski trails. But if we zoom in the area in the red, the map on the left is the Forest Service map, and you can start picking out the snowshoe trail that goes from Meisner Snow Park in the lower left up to the Meisner Shelter. This is the most popular trail there. And the trail on the map on the right is where I've started to highlight the trail difficulty. And you can see this on the maps, the blow-up maps we have here, and on the maps available on the website that are ranked by difficulty. And so if we think of Meisner Snow Park and what trails are available, the first trails if you go to the snow park and take off on the right-hand side, will be the trails out to Meisner Shelter. And so in the map on the upper left, you can see that there is a green trail, that is the short loop, 1 3/4 miles, and the easiest route out to Meisner Shelter is a 1 1/4 mile out, 2.5 mile round trip, okay? And this is a view of Meisner Shelter in the lower left-hand corner, a very iconic warming shelter, generally with a fire going if it's a busy time of year. And the image on your right is of along the snowshoe trail, and you get a sense of what the trails are like. They tend to be packed to about 2 feet in width, and the vegetation is about arm's length out from them. And so, what happened?
It's old and cranky. This is fun.
Yes, sir.
I have a question while we're waiting.
Yeah.
Can I tow a sled and spend the night snow camping on these trails?
You could tow a sled. You can spend the night snow camping, okay? You're not allowed to camp, I think it's within 100 feet of a snow shelter, though. There is a limit, I don't remember the rule, but you're not allowed to camp near the snow park, and you're not allowed to camp near a shelter.
But anything off trail from there?
Anything off trail is just standard forest, yes. Yeah.
Pop them back up.
Oh, good, okay.
That's nice. Okay. That should go away. Sorry.
I'll say also, the trails are not restricted in use. So a skier can use a snowshoe trail. They probably won't, okay? But they're allowed to. And fat tire bikes can use the snowshoe trail. They're supposed to give preference to the snowshoer, but it is much harder to move a fat bike off the trail than a snowshoer off the trail. So it's probably easiest to let the fat tire bike user have the right of way, but technically they can use the snowshoe trails as well. Okay,
I think
so
we're just gonna have to deal with the bar up there for now.
Okay.
I don't wanna.
okay. But the iconic photo of the Meisner Snowshoe Trail, you know, on a snowy day, it's just gorgeous and it's quiet. Okay, so the Meisner Shelter is one of the preferred places to go for relatively easy snowshoeing, and it's very common in nighttime snowshoeing. The other trail at Meisner is the Nordine tie that goes up to the Nordine shelter. It leaves from the west side of the snow park. It is a most difficult trail because it goes up a fairly steep slope. Even though it's only 3/4 of a mile long, it goes up a steep climb. So it's rated most difficult, but it's only 3/4 of a mile. And that shelter looks out to the east. If we go further up the road to Winoga, then that's the snow park with the sledding. It's a snow park with the fat tire bike trails, and it has a 1 mile snowshoe trail managed by dogpack.org that is dog friendly. A very flat snowshoe trail, but a good place to snowshoe with your dog. Swampy Snow Park is the next snow park on your right, headed up towards Mount Bachelor, and it is probably one of the two premier places for snowshoeing here along the Century Drive corridor. And there's two trail systems, one that heads off to the east and one that heads off to the northwest. And we'll look at the one going east first, and that is the snowshoe short loop, the snowshoe long loop, and the Nordine snowshoe tie. And so the short loop is a 1 3/4 mile loop through the trees and low rolling hills, not a lot of terrain, an easy place to go for your first time. You can make it longer with the snowshoe long loop, and you can make it even longer by going all the way out to Nordine shelter. And if you're doing that, the long loop plus the Nordine shelter, that will be a 4.5 mile snowshoe. But not a lot of elevation change. So very doable in 4 to 5 hours, okay? You also have the option, if you have two cars, leave one car at Meisner and drive the other car to Swampy, and you can do a one-way from Swampy to down the short loop, along the long loop, out to Nordine shelter, and then drop down from Nordine shelter to Meisner. So it makes a 3-mile one-way snowshoe if you want to do that alternative. So lots of choices there. Again, the Nordine shelter in the lower right, and a perspective of the snowshoe trail in I guess that's your lower left. Again, through largely lodgepole type forest. The other trail goes off to the northwest. It's called the Porcupine Trail. It's perhaps the most popular at Swampy because it goes out to the Swampy shelter. And so if you take it clockwise out the western trail, the one marked green here, it's 1 3/4 miles out to Swampy shelter. And Swampy shelter is another iconic warming shelter with a stove, and very popular for both skiers and snowshoers. And so it would be a 3.5 mile snowshoe. And there's various alternatives coming, to return. You can continue on some of the other trail segments that are slightly more difficult, or the most difficult, the extension out to the northwest, the long loop, and then over Telemark Butte. So several options there depending on your interest and ability and time. Continuing out towards Mount Bachelor, the next snow park is Vista Butte. And Vista Butte Snow Park is basically a wide area along Cascade Lakes Highway just before the Sun River turnoff. So it is a snow park. We established a 1 mile dedicated snowshoe trail up to the top of Vista Butte last year. And so that's a new snowshoe trail out there. It is designated as most difficult because it has a 700-foot elevation gain, and being a snowshoe trail goes straight up slope, okay? So it's a good workout, but if you get to the top on a bluebird day, I don't recommend it for a windy, blowing day. You get to the top and you have magnificent, beautiful views of Mount Bachelor, views of Broken Top and the Three Sisters, and views back east of Bend. So it's a great destination when the weather's right and you have plenty of energy. Yes, ma'am.
When you pull over at the parking area, it looks like the mound of snow is straight up. Are there any tips for getting up to that, to where you can get to where the trail starts? It's just impossible when you're driving by.
That's a challenge, but sometimes people will bring in their shovel and carve some steps, but it's one of the challenges. And so an alternative is park at the Kopka Snow Park, which is just a quarter mile down the Sun River Road, and you can take the Kopka Vista Tie Trail, which is a 5/8 mile trail. It is a shared trail with skiers. So share the snow, not the tracks. Please don't snowshoe on the ski tracks, okay? Snowshoe next to them. And the skiers should not ski on your snowshoe tracks. But it's a 5/8 of a mile snowshoe or trail that will take you underneath the Cascade Lakes Highway over to the Vista Butte trailhead. So it does add about a mile and a quarter of additional snowshoeing, but it resolves the snow berm problem and resolves the limited parking. But Vista Butte on a sunny day with, with good energy and stamina, it's a good trail and it's wonderful views. Continuing up the highway to just across the road from Mount Bachelor is the Dutchman Snow Park, and it's a destination that is one of the two places to depart from to go out to Todd Lake. And you can either depart from Dutchman Snow Park or you can depart from Mount Bachelor. And so the option from Dutchman Snow Park is we established a dedicated snowshoe trail there a couple of years ago so that you can snowshoe from the Dutchman Snow Park out to the Common Corridor and join the Todd Lake Loop. It's a mile and a half of distance leaving Dutchman. You can also park at Mount Bachelor, go into the Nordic Center, and the Nordic Center is on the north side of the parking lot. So on the right-hand side as you go to the parking lot, you can go up to the counter and you can get a free, F-R-E-E at Bachelor, free Common Corridor pass, like the one shown here, and that allows you to go across their Common Corridor to the Todd Lake Snowshoe Trail. And that distance is only a half a mile, okay? And so once you, if you go from there to the Common Corridor, you can then get on the Todd Lake Loop. And the Todd Lake Loop is 2 3/4 mile loop that takes you from the Common Corridor, which this is the junction point at the Common Corridor where you would go out Dutchman Snow Park, back to Mount Bachelor, or start the Todd Lake Loop. And that trail, that loop will take you out to Todd Lake. It will take you to the parking area where you normally park to then walk up to Todd Lake. And the snowshoe trail will take you to that point, and then you continue snowshoeing up to the lake. The easiest route is to go clockwise, so to the left, and go clockwise. And that's 1.25 miles. The counterclockwise route is 1.5 miles. It is slightly more elevation change on that route, but it takes you through this beautiful hemlock forest that you see a picture of on the right. And so I recommend, if you're out there and you have the energy to do the entire loop, go counterclockwise and go through the hemlock forest in the morning when you have a little bit more energy, get out to the lake, and then come back the other way. And there'll be less elevation change. And you get out to the lake, there are plenty of gray jays that will want to inquire about your snacks or your lunch, okay? And you have the beautiful views across the lake of Mount Broken Top there at the other end. So a wonderful trail. And the snow depths out there last year were 10 feet, okay? So again, think about that from having your snowshoe poles.
Does the trail go around, the same trail you would walk in the summer around the lake?
No, it doesn't. The snowshoe trail goes to the lake, but not around the lake, okay? So you probably would never notice the snowshoe trail in the summer, okay? Because it's between Dutchman Snow Park and the parking area, okay? And as I say, it's a winter-only trail.
But you can follow the summer trail around, I mean, you're above it, but it hugs the lake very closely,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's easy to just
Yeah, you can.
go cross-country.
you'd be going cross-country at that point, and so on a nice day, it's a wonderful place. Mount Bachelor does have 5 miles of cross-country, of snowshoe trail, okay? They do have a charge for it, okay? It was $13 a couple years ago to get a pass to use their snowshoe trails. But that is certainly an option, is to snowshoe at Mount Bachelor on their 5 miles of trails.
Is that pass for one day?
I believe it is, yes, yes. So a $25 snow park pass gets you 27 miles of snowshoe trails for all season versus $13 for one day, okay? So there is a price difference. Okay, so we'll continue on and head down the Sun River Road to the Edison Snow Park, which is about 3-4 miles south of the Sun River Junction. And this is really a great snow park if you want to snowshoe with your dog, okay? It is dog friendly. Unfortunately, in 2024, the little lava fire did burn into the snow park and burned the southern part of the snow park, damaging both the Nordic trails and part of the snowshoe trails. The Edison shelter, which you see there in the upper right, that was pre-fire. The post-fire view is in the lower right. And all that was really left was the stovepipe, because the stove had already been removed, and a few concrete blocks and a few bolts. So unfortunately, the fire was extremely hot down there in that southern part. We have gone back in this year and reestablished some of the trails, okay? So it's back open this year. The snow park was closed last year, and there's 2 trail systems I want to focus on. First is the, I guess that screen that you're sort of cut off at the top, but the first is the short and long loop snowshoe trail, and that's shown in green, okay? And Edison Snow Park is really the iconic snow park for snowshoeing on a young lava flow. It is snowshoes on lava flows that are 18 to 20,000 years old. They're sourced from Mount Bachelor, okay? And so they really are beautiful in the winter with the bulbous shapes caused by the snow over the lava. And it also, because it's a fairly young lava flow, the loggers did not cut the old ponderosa trees, because if you cut ponderosa trees in a lava flow, the trees fall on the rock, it splinters the wood, the loggers are charged for the tree, and they can't get any value out of it. So they left all the old ponderosa trees, and many of those have survived the fire and were on trails that were not burned, parts of the trails that were not burned. So it's one of the great places to see the old ponderosa trees and the lava flows. And the short loop is a 2.5-mile loop that leaves the snow park. When you get to the destination, you leave on the left, and it's a 2.5-mile loop. The other direction is the Tesla Snowshoe Trail, and there's an intermediate loop that's 3.5 miles, that's shown in blue. And then the black, most difficult loop is a 5-mile loop, okay? And as you head to the west on the Tesla Trail going west, it's rated the most difficult because you're also climbing about 600 feet in elevation. So you're going up and down over the lava flows, and you're increasing in elevation. And there is now a dedicated snowshoe trail out to the AC/DC shelter up in the upper right-hand corner, okay? And it's a 5.5-mile round trip snowshoe. But it's another iconic shelter with great views of Mount Bachelor. So if you're really energetic, the snow conditions and the weather conditions are great, it certainly is an option, again, dog friendly. The Nordic Club has gotten approval to rebuild the Edison shelter, and so we're now going through the process of what kind of shelter to build and exactly where to put it, but we're hoping in the next years to have a new shelter out there. It just takes a lot of time to get through the whole Forest Service approval process. But so hang tight, we'll try and replace it. So those are the dedicated snowshoe trails along the Century Drive corridor. Now we'll talk about some of the destinations beyond Century Drive, starting with Skyliners, just heading out west of Bend. There's the Skyliner Snow Park, and it offers a 6-mile round trip shared Nordic and snowshoe trail out to Tumalo Falls. Okay, and so that's certainly an opportunity. 4,800 feet of elevation is a little bit lower, so you're going to have to watch the snow conditions to have enough snow, but that's certainly a nice place to go. If we head up north towards Sisters, there's the Upper Three Creek Snow Park with the arrow there. It has a 1 3/4 mile snowshoe trail out to the Jeff View Shelter, there's the view of the Jeff View Shelter, and the Peak View Snowshoe Trail is certainly one of the most attractive trails to snowshoe on. It goes through the Pole Creek Fire, so your views are unobstructed by trees, and you have the views of the Three Sisters, you have the views of Jefferson. It's a wonderful place to go snowshoe going out south of Sisters. It also has a snowtel. There's a snowtel network throughout the Cascades and the Rocky Mountains, and the snowtel network is operated by the Department of Agriculture to do automatic measurements of snow depth and snow and water content of the snow. And so in the picture in the right-hand perspective is the Three Creek Meadow Snowtel, and it gives automatic measurements back to the recording stations every day. And so you can go online and see what is the snow depth up here at Three Creek Meadow. And 2 other stations that are of interest to where we snowshoe. Hog Rock is up by Sandy Ann Pass, and Ochoco Meadow is over by Walton Lake. And this is the graph that when you click on the Snowtel web link, this is the graph you bring up on the Three Creek Meadow Snowtel. And so the three colors are the ranges, the historic ranges of snow, with the red shading at the bottom being the lowest recorded snow. The sort of green line through the middle is the median or average snow level for a particular depth. The vertical scale is snow depth. The horizontal scale is time. And then the purple is the maximum recorded snow. And you can see the black line along the baseline. That was as of Sunday, okay? So there was a little blip of snow back in October, if you remember, okay? And it's all gone. And the green shade, or I guess it's blue shaded line, is what we had last year at this time. So last year there was about 10 inches of snow there, okay? And the other thing to reflect on is not to be too pessimistic, because if you look at when peak snow is in the Cascades, it really isn't until in the March timeframe. So about the time you're getting tired of winter is when the snow is the deepest, okay? But there's still a lot of opportunity for snow, but I sure wish there was more up there right now. But the Snowtel gives you a perspective before you drive out there on whether you're going to need boots or whether you're going to need snowshoes, okay? The next place to mention is up by Sandy Ann Pass, and I'll come back to it. The 2 snow parks up there are the Sandy Ann Snow Park and Ray Benson. This is the snow park winter trail map, and there are a number of winter trails up there. These are all shared trails, and there are some Nordic trails that are good for snowshoeing, like the North Loop Nordic Trail, about 4 miles in length, and you get spectacular views of the Three Finger Jack from the blowout shelter there in the upper right. So it's another place to consider snowshoeing, and as you know, as you continue heading over Highway 20, there's a number of snow parks over on the west side as well. So Potato Hill and so forth. So there's a number of destinations further to the west, but another snow park on this side of the summit. If you consider going east, there's the Walton Lake Snow Park out in the Ochocos, east of Prineville, okay? And again, a series of Nordic trails that you can use, share the trail, not the snow, or share the snow, not the trail, okay? And so there's a number of trails you can snowshoe along, and it's another potential destination. I recommend doing an out and back from A to B to H. It's sort of going north from the snow park. And if you get to H, you can look over the big meadow area out there north of Walton Lake. So it's another destination to go out and explore. Heading south, you have two potential destinations, the 10-mile snow park at Newberry and the Lapine State Park. At Newberry, at the 10-mile snow park, there's a shared trail, the Ponderosa Rim Trail and the Paulina View Trail, shown in blue. They are shared trails, Nordic and Snowshoe, where you can snowshoe from the 10-mile snow park up to Paulina Lake. And you pass the Paulina Falls, because you're snowshoeing right along the edge of the cliff overlooking the river, and you can snowshoe all the way up to Paulina Lake Lodge. And on the weekends, in the winter, they're generally open. So you can get something to eat there and then snowshoe back to 10 Mile. You can do it as a loop, going up the Ponderosa Rim Trail and coming back the Paulina View Trail. I will say that the Paulina View Trail is a little bit longer and it is narrower. So it's a little bit harder to stay off the ski tracks on the Paulina View Trail. And so I tend to do it as an out and back, okay? And while it is an elevation gain of 800 feet from the snow park to the lake, it's a fairly gentle slope headed out there. So certainly a place to go. Being further from the Cascades, even though it's at good elevation, it doesn't tend to get as good a snow as snow parks closer to the Cascades. And so you have to watch the snow. The other and the last destination on the list is really the Lapine State Park. And if you're looking for a dog-friendly place that is very gentle trails, easy to get to, maintained roads, consider the Fall River Loop Trail along the Deschutes and the Fall River at Lapine State Park. And you can park there in the parking lot, and you don't need a lot of snow. It's not a lot of elevation, but it's certainly another destination and a wonderful place to go see in the wintertime at Fall River Falls. And you have an unlimited number of destinations that are off-trail. If you're going to explore off-trail, I recommend trying it in a snow park and going inside of a loop where you have a snowshoe trail in either direction, and that way you're not headed off and trying to find your way back, because you know if you're inside a loop, you can always get to the outside and get back on the trail. Be careful of tree wells. Just like with downhill skiing, falling into a tree well is a very difficult situation to get out of. So keep your distance from tree wells. Especially, this is the one picture on the left is at the top of Vista Butte. And so where between the wind and the shedding of the snow has resulted in that tree well is probably 3 or 4 feet deep. And so it's a dangerous situation. The other challenge is be careful off trail of small pine trees and other holes in the snow. If you're out there and you step close to the little pine tree, that pine tree has shed the snow away from it, creating a bit of a void. Your snowshoe will drop, and then your snowshoe will start catching just like a toggle bolt, and it's hard to pull back up. So that's when I really recommend snowshoe with a buddy. Don't be afraid, but snowshoe with a buddy, and I recommend having poles, just from that safety perspective of snow cavities. But a lot of wonderful trail, a lot of wonderful off-trail conditions out there to go out and explore. The snowshoe trails are all volunteer maintained, and the Central Oregon Nordic Club is responsible for maintaining 27 miles of the snowshoe trails. which means volunteers going out in the winter and in the fall, clearing any of the blowdown that's occurred along the trail, hanging up new markers, and keeping the trails safe to use. We appreciate the support of the Central Oregon Nordic Club, and the membership dues of the Central Oregon Nordic Club help fund the operation. Everyone is a volunteer. There's no paid support. And we appreciate and the Deschutes Trail Coalition and the Bend Sustainability Fund for providing funds that pay for the markers, the snowshoe markers. And I think I did not mention, at many of the junctions, there are You Are Here maps. So if you're out there on the snowshoe trails and you get to a junction, at most of the trails at Meisner, Swampy, and Edison, you will find You Are Here maps at each junction. That's one for Swampy. This is one for Meisner, okay? So to keep you aligned with which way to go if you don't have a map with you. And so grants help provide that funding. The Forest Service used to have a winter trail crew. 10 years ago, they had a winter trail crew, and that trail crew has been defunded. And then this last year, the summer trail crew has been defunded. So volunteers have become even more valuable. If you're interested in volunteering, we'd love to have you help the trails work, and you can volunteer through the Central Oregon Nordic Club, okay? If you find a problem on the trail, a tree's fallen, the wind blew, the tree fallen, then go to the website and click on the danger on the Central Oregon Nordic website, click on danger, and file a report. So we've covered the topics. Remind you that there's the guided snowshoe trail hike that Kelly's going to run. That takes us to the end and questions. So the presentation, as I say, the individual slides are available on the website snowshoebendoregon.com. You can download the PDF file, okay? If you want to get a particular slide, you can look on both that website and Central Oregon Nordic Club website for all the information we talked about today. If you have a question, you can email me, bobtimmer@yahoo.com, or snowshoebendoregon@gmail.com.